Lisa. Hey, thanks.
Thanks, Kara. And we are already using the chat, so just continue to do that at any time. I can be reviewing the chat too, Kara and Lisa. So but if I don't see anything, I know you'll just chime in and say, hey, wait a minute, there's a question. And we are here today to talk about EBSCO Admin. And I want to start out with kind of a caveat, because a lot of you, kind of depending on how you're using EBSCO and what your access points are, what your entry points are, will determine whether or not you can do all of the things that we're going to talk about today. But I think no matter what, it's really good to know about your backend software tools for your research software that you are using. So I think kind of the couple goals today are to just get more familiar with the tool, and I'll go ahead and get more familiar with the tool, and then also just to realize what can be done, and not necessarily you have to do it today, but start to open your mind about, oh, I think maybe we can change some things in our system, and for the better of our researchers. There's another thing I was going to ask, and we can go ahead and do this while I'm moving through. I have just like about you can see 3 pages of PowerPoint, and then we're going to go live. So what I'd like to know is also what type of library you're from, if you don't mind. So you can just put that in chat. So where are you? Public library? Are you school library? Maybe special library, academic library? Just that's going to be helpful for me to know too. So let me move on. And hi, this is me. I'm in Denver today. Usually I'm in New Orleans, and mostly the trainers used to travel, but now, for the last 2 years, we've just been homebound. But I'm used to working from home when I wasn't traveling, so it's just basically kind of the same thing we've been doing. And we are going to be looking at this. I think we have a little bit under an hour now. Are we doing a full hour, Kara?
Yes, or
Okay.
15 minutes and a few little bit of questions, I guess.
Okay.
However you want to do it's fine.
Okay, yes, definitely. So we'll go on, we'll go not over an hour, let's say that, depending on the questions. And we can also too, we're always available, me, Kara, and then your other team, and at the State Library and at Inspire are available after this if you do think of other things after, or if you want to start to implement maybe some of the changes. So what is EBSCO Admin? This is what we're talking about today. There's a lot of things that you can do within admin. And remember what I said, depending on how you're using, if you're just using your Inspire, if you're just going through the Inspire website, you're probably more limited on controlling that environment. But if you have your own web pages where you have your own links and you have, you're pointing to your own versions, let's say, of your, EBSCO and all the database tools and Explora and your reference centers, you'll have more optimizations and customizations that you have available to you. Okay, so just kind of let that sit in, and we will go into that more. So definitely, if you are using your own versions and not using the Inspire website, then you can customize the search, change the look of the results page, and so on. Also branding. So Inspire, of course, has a lot of branding on their EBSCO resources. If you could do the same if you wanted to with your brands. What about adding links? So are your ILL links in your EBSCO resources if you do want to allow that? Also now look at, view usage statistics. We will be having a whole class on usage statistics on February 9th. But I'll show you just kind of 2 really analytical or graphical reports today on that. And then one other, here comes another poll. What about does anyone have their own version of discovery? So we know that through Inspire, if you use the Inspire page, there's a discovery versions there. But if you've gone above and beyond and purchased extra through EBSCO to have your own version, then EBSCO admin is more of a, I wouldn't say daily thing that you're logging into, but probably weekly and at minimum or monthly, if you do have your own version of Discovery. So just kind of keep that in mind too. And I see someone saying no. So if anyone does know that they have their own version of Discovery, please just put that in chat to say, yes, I do. And then we're going to look at authentication. So that's the things that you can do. We are going to be understanding the purpose. We'll become familiar with key areas and then know when and where to ask for help. And then we're going to start with Connect for that. And that's it for that. Time to go live. And I'm starting on Inspire. And so like I was saying before, if this is your starting page, or you do have your own website, but you point to this page to then go off into the databases and all the interfaces that you have through EBSCO, which an interface is Explora, an interface is Discovery if you use this box, or if you're going to databases A to Z, you're using EBSCO host when you click on any of the EBSCO resources, and that's also an interface. So an interface is just how you're accessing the databases, and there's different interfaces. So if you're using these pages alone, then I think that the caveat is that that there's going to be less options for you to customize because Inspire's already done that for you. But if you have your own page, something like this, or this is my own library, and I have my own links, individual links going to databases and going out to Explora, and then possibly my own search box using my own discovery service, then this is where you'll get a little bit more ability to customize. Okay, so just kind of start with that. And so we will be going back and forth from the front end, which this is my back doorway to get in. So I actually I'll go ahead and I'll just, well, first of all, is anyone using this as their entry point? Sometimes smaller libraries also might be viewing this. So let me know in the chat if you're using this. If not, this is just my way of getting in because I'm, so that I can get authenticated. So let me just go into EBSCO host here, and then I'll go over and log in here. All right, so every library, even if you are just going through the Inspire databases, you still do have an EBSCO admin account. So every library does have an account. I'm asking for a lot of input here in the chat. Can you tell me if you do have an account, if you have a login? Just let me know. You can just say yes, yes, yes in the chat. So that's good and if you don't, and if you think that you should after this session, then it is just a matter of saying, or if someone, you want to make sure someone in your library has access to this. So you can definitely request it from our support team, and they should give you the login to access EBSCO admin is what you're asking for. Yeah, and then, usually like someone's saying, well, the director someone in your library should have access to this. Again, if you think it's you, then you can request it. If not, then you can just make sure that someone does. And if you want to talk to them about the changes we looked at today, we can do that. But when you first log into EBSCO admin, you do land on your site. So in EBSCO world, everyone has a site name and a site code. Because I'm logging in at the top level of Indiana State Library, I'm a consortia. And if I just showed you this, I can show you that, Indiana State Library is the kind of the mother, or father of all of the other child sites, right? If you have a drop down when you log in, that means that most likely you may have multiple branches that are underneath you, or if you're an academic, you may have like a law library, or you know what I mean? So you have a main library and then a law library, but most likely your current site, it will be just a static. It'll just show you what your site name is and your site code. And if you don't know, knowing that site code when you do call EBSCO for help, or when you do open a case and connect for help, that's important. That is really kind of your number. So if you can even just jot that down, keep that in memory somewhere, that's helpful information to have. We can always look you up other ways. So you log in as a site, and sites hold groups. Groups are usually just something that you have, and I'll show you here. Usually you might have a testing group, or a sandbox where you can maybe try things out without having it in the public view. But typically your main group you're landing on, and this is your live environment, and groups are holders of profiles, and profiles are just holders of databases. So remember when I said sometimes you use EBSCO host to search individual databases. You may use Consumer Health Complete. Look at all of those consumer health information. You also will have your discovery service if you have that. Here's your Explora profiles. So all of these profiles, just they're interfaces that hold databases. So there's my hobbies and crafts. So the reference centers, points of view, and so on. And because you're in the consortia, when you log into your individual account, you won't see Indiana State, you'll just see your own self. But you should have a lot of these profiles just because you inherit them from the top level. So let me go back up. Kind of land here. So remember, profiles are holders of databases, and these are the things that actually then, like, let's just look at this one, EBSCO host, and now I'm using EBSCO host, and I'm using one database. So when you go in through wherever you're landing on this is kind of settings and customizations that we're talking about here when I'm talking about customizing profiles. So I'm going to stop there, make sure that there's no questions. I'm looking at chat, there isn't. But please do put anything in chat, okay? And then, or Kara, and then any of the other trainers that are here, please, do direct or guide, or, anything that you want to add, please do, okay? So before we go down, because I think customized service really is the place that has the most power as far as affecting change when you're saying, what are the default settings for searching? So, and I think that that's really important, because if you think about it, users come to your library, they click on a database, or, they click on a link, and they start to do a search. So it's really up to the library themselves, and it's up to the state, to kind of set those default settings up so that it's best for the library, or best for that specific library user. Like the academic user is possibly going to be different from the public user, definitely different from a corporate user, or from a K-12 lower level, lower school level user. So if you think about that, there's lots of ways that you can change what the system is doing to better suit who's searching. And I think that's really important to kind of remember. And we're going to go, I'm going to save that to kind of to the end. Let's now go through this authentication, holdings, local collections, and all that before we go back to customized service and look at some of the things that you can do. So someone's asking if there's a specific email address to request an EBSCO admin. So I think this is a good point for me to go over to EBSCO Connect. So all of you should have, I'll put this in chat, copy, and let me see, put it to everyone. So connect.ebsco.com is kind of the case portal system. And this is what we were talking about earlier when someone said, oh, well, I tried to get a login and EBSCO said I couldn't, but that should not be the case. And so if you have not already gotten a login here, here's something too, you can just call. So how do I contact support? I think this page is going to have phone numbers. And it will also probably talk to you about opening a case in Connect. So here is, contact us through this form, or there's always this phone number. So if you just want to call and say, hey, I don't have an EBSCO admin account, I'm from here and please issue it to me, they'll do that. But really, I think the better thing is go ahead and go to the sign in after you go to connect if you don't have an account already. And let's pound away at them and request your EBSCO account. This should be given to you ASAP. If it's not, we're going to start sending these, I guess, Kara, sorry. But like to know if you are getting any pushback from this, because you should not. Everyone from any library in Indiana should be able to get an account. Once you do that, I'm going to sign in just so you'll see. And actually, I just want to go back to the home page so you'll see. So my home page changes now that I've signed in. It knows who I am. And then here is where I'm having a good dialogue with EBSCO support. So here's where I'm going to create a case and say, hey, I need some information, or I have a problem. And then it tracks your cases in here too. So you'll have kind of a historical record then. Okay. So thanks for that question. Hopefully that's helpful. So let's move on over to, so we're going to come back to customized service. I think this is where the pop is, right? And this is more of, general maintenance area up here. So up here, authentication. And there's a couple pieces of homework that I want you to make a note of. If you're not the one to access EBSCO admin, that's fine. I still want you to please make a note of it and try to find out who is accessing EBSCO admin for you, so that you can tell them that they need to do this, right? So there's some homework that I want you to do. So there's a newer area. Authentication is just, how do you get to your resources? And I know that in the state of Indiana, you have geolocation. But for a lot of you too, you may have your IP addresses listed in EBSCO. You may be using a library card access for your library. So different libraries can choose different ways to access. So depending on how you're doing it, most likely it's already all set up, but there's something new here that I want you to see. And if you have any questions about any of these, personal users, API, LTI, let me know. But I want to just kind of pop some things in here. And this is the homework piece. So under preferred authentication, I want you to make sure that you have this set up properly, or that someone in your system has it set up properly. And I'm going to also share this. I'm going to go over here to connect and share a website for you, so that you can share. So here it is here. I'll just grab this. And this, then you can share. You can either follow it along, after the session, if you want to do it for your own, or you can share it with your admin person. So first homework is make sure that this is set up right. If you are using a proxy server for your individual authentication, then please point to the proxy. If you do have Open Athens or another single sign-on that you're using for your database authentication, then please make sure that this would be more of the setup, like you're going to allow it to see IP and then SSO. If you are using library card, that's going to be CPID. So either way, if you need any help with this at all, support can help you. But I think for your admin person, most likely will have an idea of how to set this up. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions at all. So I'm going to cancel this and go out. So anytime I'm an admin, if I do want to back out, I don't want to use the back button because it doesn't like it, but you can cancel, or you can always use that customized service button to kind of go across. So no other questions about authentication. I'll move on, but I do also want to highlight this. A lot of times when you're an admin, you will have instant help right here. So if you notice that you have a question mark, it will open up to a connect area that does give you then some helpful tools to talk about. And remember, we were on that authentication page. So it actually goes right to an authentication to discuss what IP authentication, what personal user authentication is, and so on. So remember and kind of look out for those helpful tips, tool tips that can help you to better understand what's going on. So I don't think anyone said that they have EBSCO Discovery outside of what they're using through Inspire. So if you don't, then holdings management won't really be a thing for you. You may still have it up there and viewable when you log in, but this really is for someone that has either our full text finder software or our discovery service software that would be outside of what you're getting through Inspire. Okay. So local collections too. So I would say if you have this or this, most likely just ignore these two. You're not using them. They're not, relevant to your library, and I would just leave them alone. Reports and statistics, on the other hand, may be useful to you. And again, I'm going to say may, because depending on if you're just using the Inspire site and that's the only entry point you have, or if you have your own entry point, your own URLs on your own web pages, you should see reports. But I think no matter what, I think it's worth it for you to log in here. And this is what I would do to kind of get an idea of, our reports getting tracked at your site. And I think a lot of that also has to do with IP recognition. So if you do have your IPs in an authentication, then EBSCO possibly is tracking, for you, the stats that are going through that IP or coming from that IP, right? So if nothing else, this is what I would do. And this is going to give you a good idea whether or not your stats are going to be relevant to you. And so there's a couple places here. One of them is this top search terms. If you just kind of remember the term of analytics, because this one everyone will have, and then standard usage, and then here's that word again, analytics. So I'm going to look at these two reports, analytics. And before I do, though, I want to just show you this page. So depending on the products that you get or the software that you get from EBSCO will determine then what shows up on this page. So if you, we know that, through the state library, you do have ebooks, you do have EBSCO host in EDS, and full text finder. You may have other report areas on here, Flipster, or if you purchase anything outside of what you get through the library, then you might have other resources here to be able to then run reports on those. But the majority of the time, the reports are run here, standard usage, and or counter if you have to do that. But remember, February 9th is the reporting class, but I do want to show you this. So let's first go into here. And I think if nothing else, this might be a fun place for you to log in, or, one reason for you to log into EBSCO Admin, go to reports and just click on that top search terms report. So this literally tells you what people are putting in the search box. So, and this, remember, so we're at the top state level. And we're looking at all interfaces. That means anyone that puts something in the search box for discovery, anyone that clicks on any of these links here or any of the other links, it's counting everything right now for this all interfaces. If we just wanted to see, well, and let's just do this. Let's just look at what Explorer Primus, or what are the younger kids putting in search boxes. So you can do that. And you can see here that, here we go, now it's changes. So so you can see that tennis shoe designs and Fortnite Battle Royale, right? So gaming. I could blow this up if I wanted just to see. We have probably some, definitely some assignments, that were given, Age of Exploration and so on. And so you can see that the younger kids are saying things like slime and kittens and jokes and baseball in Florida. So this is a good way for you to know what your users are searching. And if you scroll down, this really is telling you, and remember, we're just looking at that Explorer primary. So whatever users have put in the search box using this interface, and I'm going to hover over here. This is a top 1,000 search terms. So it really is a rolling 1,000. So it, depending on how often 1,000 you hit 1,000 searches in any of these interfaces for your library, will determine how, what time frame this really kind of represents, right? So remember, that always helps me, those question marks. I don't have to really remember anything. I just have to kind of hover over and it tells you what's going on here. And I can look, see here, but this really is kind of the meat. So someone put in Christmas and it was 155 times someone put that in the search box. And then they clicked on results within the result list 54 times. So, that they found something. Like, I think a lot of times if you see 0, then you're thinking, well, they, what search term did they look for where it's 0? And then, ask yourself as a librarian a couple things. Well, do we need to do some instruction, or do we need to maybe get some more materials on these topics? Because if they're not finding it, in this resource. So I think this is just another kind of good snapshot of what people are doing in your systems. So I do have some questions I'll answer. One of them is, why wouldn't full text box be on ours? So I might need you to clarify that a little bit. So just let me know, like, if you're talking about the screen, like what screen are you talking about? Where is that full text missing? And then the next question, okay, so Kara says that we'll come back to these questions. Oh, so on reports and statistics. So is it this one, the full text finder, that you're asking about? Yeah, so the full text finder is a piece of software that goes along with Discovery. So if you don't have full text finder, so that's something that you would have had to purchase, then you won't have it. Okay, so this has nothing, if you want to see, like full text usage is actually then gathered here or here. And so let's go ahead. Remember, I just went into this one. That was just that more of an informational report and about, what users are putting into search boxes within any of your EBSCO resources. Let's look at this one, standard usage analytics, because this one also is a snapshot. It's also graphical. And but it will show you more of it. It falls in line with the reports that you typically would run with how many people are accessing full text, how many people are looking at abstracts. And so when you click in, remember, here's a tutorial on how to use this. Here's a glossary of terms. So if you start looking at these terms of sessions and searches and link outs, what does that mean? Well, it helps you to have this right here, glossary of terms. Also, remember, this is called a database usage report, and it tells me that this is the last 13 months. Look at that first sentence on the first or second paragraph. So it's capturing, it's just a snapshot of what's been going on in my system for the last 13 months. So I can look and I can see that a session just means someone jumped into a database. I don't know what they did. Maybe they just sit there and did nothing. Maybe they did not one search, but they opened up an interface. They clicked on a link that went into one of the EBSCO resources, right? So this is your session. Remember, we're at the state of Indiana, so this is very large usage. A search just means that then someone actually went in and did a search. So I'm actually going to click these away just to kind of hide them. This has to do with your discovery service. There's no such thing as federated searches anymore in the EBSCO world. There is such thing as automated searches, and that is what discovery does because the user doesn't choose their own database. The databases are chosen for them behind the scenes. And so we consider that an automated search. But if I hide that too, really what I want to see here are users getting to full text? Are they reading abstracts, which is also helpful? And then if I do have an ILL link or I have other links going out to other resources that I own somewhere, even back to my catalog or something. These are then also helpful to know because I'm getting users somewhere. Some users are using one of the EBSCO products to then go and link out to find other additional information or to request information. So I think that these are the three that are pretty helpful. And you can see the trend because remember, this is 13. So we know, summer is time for summer reading and, school is out and for everyone typically. So you have a lot less usage on the research databases. And then when fall starts again, you have the big rise. And this is just, back in January. But you can see December's already there, because December kind of dies down again. And then in January, it'll start to pick up again. Okay. So remember, February 9th, we're going to go into a lot more detail. And depending on how you're using your resources, will determine whether or not the reports are valid for you. I think I want to make sure that that point is taken from everyone. And then I think that, so database title lists, let's move on. This is good for everyone. So if you do have a desire to download the journal titles that you own, and you want to put them in your catalog so that users can click and find these online journals, right? Online resources, online ebooks, whatever it is. Well, this wouldn't be the way that you get the ebooks, but you can, get access to MARC records for ebooks too. So here is going to be your availability to download, and maybe you just want to pull in some of your main databases that you have that have a lot of different resources like academic search. Or, if you're a public library, maybe you want to try just Masterfile because that's more of the popular reading materials that are in, in that database. So anytime that you want to do this, you don't have to ask us to, send you the MARC records. You can then, and most likely if you want to leave that off, just the things that aren't full text, the journals that aren't in full text, just download the full text only. And then you have instructions, you have different formats, you could download it, modification notes, and then a sample record. Has anyone done this before? Let me know in the chat. Remember, you have your help. And let's go back to customized service now. So I think the most important thing here is, and again, you don't have to know how to do this, but just start to think about this if you can. So let's look and see what the state of Indiana has done for their Inspire databases. Okay, let's see look and see what Inspire has done. So when I search any of the EBSCO databases, so when I search ebooks, or when I search newspaper source, or when I search Masterfile, academic search, business source, whatever individual database I choose when I'm searching EBSCO host, here are my defaults. And I look at this. And so what you can do is you can go to your own library page, click on a database. I happen to click on academic search. You can click on Masterfile if you want, and look and see if your default settings are the same. And this is what I'm talking about here is by default and I'll go ahead and I'll switch to Masterfile. Let's see here. Do this. And let me see if I just did use a keyword. Yeah, no, I actually should use 2 words, and I'm going to use, let me see, winter gardening. I haven't done any searches like this in a while, but should come up with something here. There we go, your winter garden checklist, right from Sunset Magazine. Look at there, right, this month. So we found some good information there. I put in 2 words into this search box. Remember, I'm using EBSCO host. Every single interface may have different settings. So what actually happens to those words when I put them in the search box? Well, the library controls that. And this library has chosen, Inspire has chosen to and those search terms. So what that means is it's doing more of a Google search, and it's more inclusive. So it's looking at the word winter and gardening, and it's looking in the title of the article or ebook or item. It's looking in the author field for those two words. It's looking in the subject for those words. It's weighing the subject field way heavier. That is something that the system does, not, you can't really control that yourself. But it's also looking in the abstract for my keywords. So that's the only thing it's doing, and it's anding those words. It's not looking in the full text by default. And now kind of get this. Okay, so it's not looking and searching within the full text for my keywords by default. And it's also not limiting my result list by full text, because if it was by default, this would be checked. And so let's look. I have 2743. I'd hurry up and read that. So now, if I'm probably a public library, and if I am using my own version of EBSCO host, then this is probably something that I might think about doing, which is pre-limiting for the user's full text. Inspire has chosen not to do it for you, okay? But if you have your own version, then you can. And that's just one less thing that you have to tell users to do, or one less kind of confusion, for users, because typically when I do a search and I'm looking at the result list here, and I see I have lots of different access points and everything is, but look at number 11. Well, that's what I want, right? That's typically what happens. This is the one that I want from BBC Gardener's World from 2020. Where is it? Well, there's no full text. If there's not a link there, there's no full text, and there's no ILL link. So the user then has to kind of assume, or play, just click around and finally figure out, well, they're not going to be able to read it right away. So I'm glad that, so someone's saying, yeah, I think we did pre-choose the full text box. So even something as simple as that, if you get nothing else out of today, even just understanding what your searching systems are doing, and understanding that you can change it, I think is the best thing that you will get out of today. And, just you can change it by asking us, by understanding, by having a further discussion with me or with one of the librarians, and one of the, Indiana State librarians can also help you to figure your settings out. Okay. So I do want to stop. Andrea has a question about the MARC records. Yeah, so Andrea has something in the chat discussing how you can, that it's better to subscribe to the A to Z MARC records with updates, and you'll get all those with MARC 21. But I think, yeah, for EBSCO databases. So I think that you just kind of gave everyone a little bit of hint, and that's real-time knowledge there of if you are really doing something with MARC records on a regular basis, then just subscribe to the updates instead of going into admin and pulling them down. So thanks for that, Andrea. Okay. And no questions here. I want to show you, so there was a couple academic libraries here, and I want to show you when you open up your EBSCO host, most likely you have different settings. And the reason why that is this. So if I go over here to advanced search, and remember, we're talking about default settings of the way that this system core, that the core searching of it. And I think this is super important. So if you jump into your version of EBSCO host, any one of you in this session, and you don't have find all, apply related, apply equivalent, you don't, and everything else is empty down here, so this isn't pre-checked, then you could have a different combination. So most likely academic environment will have the Boolean phrase checked instead of finding all. So this is anding your search term. It's a Google type of search. This is a proximity search. Typically, this is a near 5-word search. So what it means is, instead of anding winter and gardening and look everywhere for this and then give me the results, this is saying winter gardening, these 2 words need to be near 5 words of each other. And so if you have Boolean setting checked on in your site, most likely you're doing that near 5-word search. Maybe you do have full text, or maybe you want it checked. These are the things I would be making a note of now, because you can control it. And think about anything that you're telling users, to always do. Okay, let's do a search when you're helping them, let's do a search. Okay, now click full text. Okay, now let's look at the results. If you're doing that, then please, by all means, think about turning full text or kind of pre-filtering by full text only, okay? And then if you're not, and if you don't have an ILL link added to your systems, think about, well, maybe it's time we need to add either a help link or an ILL link or something where the user knows that they, we will try to look for this for them. There's one other setting that you may have, and that a lot of times this setting is in just your discovery service, and it would be this setting here. So this is going to add a lot of results to your result list. And why is that? Because you're telling the system to search within the full text, even when it searches in that top metadata. If it doesn't find your words, either near 5 words of each other if you're using Boolean, or anding if you're using that find all. If it doesn't find those words in the top metadata, author, title, abstract, then still look in the full text. So what I like to tell librarians a lot of times is this possibly maybe isn't the best thing to use as a default to be turned on, but if you ever do a search in any EBSCO product and you have 0 to few results, before you think about changing your search terms, go over to advanced search and pop this, turn this on so that you're forcing the system to search within the full text. So obscure authors, obscure artists, new words introduced into our vocabulary, thing like Bitcoin or Dogecoin or cryptocurrency. I mean, those things are fairly new in our vocabulary. So when they started being written about, you're probably not going to be able to find many resources, many articles, but this is the way that you can just dig deep inside every single article. But let's do this. I'm going to leave these alone. And I just want to show you that Boolean phrase, because this is going to be a tighter search. And remember, I said typically academic libraries will have the Boolean phrase search. And the reason why that is, see how our result list went way down, is it's just usually searchers are maybe a little bit more sophisticated, or they really want to narrow down some things. And your searchers, if your searchers say, oh, there's always too much on the result list, and I just don't want to use the databases because I can't find anything, or then you can start to think about maybe changing and tightening up the searches so that it's better, so that they have a better experience, right? Okay, any questions at all? Let me know. So let's go back over. So we're talking about this just core searching. So now, well, Lisa, where do I change that, right? So number one, you have to think about what interface are you using? How did you search? What do you want to fix? Because you do have multiple profiles. So I'm looking at this eHost, this EBSCO host research databases, EBSCO host, eHost. This profile controls all of my individually searched databases. So when I go to this A to Z and I have academic search and it opens up EBSCO host, I have Alt Health Watch, it opens up EBSCO host. Any of these that open up EBSCO host, if I make a change within this one, it changes all of those at the same time. But if I have History Reference Center, I then actually have to go to the History Reference Center to make that same change. So think about that. Each interface has its own settings, okay? So here, searching tab is my pre-search settings. That's what we're talking about. What did the library choose for the users to have? Pre-search settings, you could look over this. It doesn't hurt you to scroll down. It doesn't hurt you to click in. And if you say, oof, I don't want to do anything here, then just cancel or click back over to customize service and it'll take you out. But this is where you're telling, so how do I know that proximity search really means near 5? Because here it is right here. So you're controlling how, how many words the system is searching within each other. But remember, for our system, the default is anding the search terms. So if I wanted to change that, I could just by saying yes and no, and then I know I'm doing that proximity, okay? And that was right on the searching tab, right on that search modes modify. So I talked about the search mode that helps you, and I'm not gonna even look at any of these others. I'm just gonna skip these. If you have any questions about them, let me know. But what I also talked about was limiters and expanders. So these three things, what search mode you're using and what limiters and expanders you're using are really the top three things on this page that you should know about, you should understand them, and you should agree with the best settings for your users. So limiter and expander settings, limiters. Someone's told me, well, I think we have that already checked. We have full text, only show full text on the result list, first pass. We have that checked. Well, here's how you would do it if you don't. Go into, find the profile that you want to affect change on. Click on the searching tab, go into that limiter, and here's where I would quickly turn it on. You can turn it on the basic search page so that if a user starts out at basic, it's already on. And you can turn it on the advanced search page so that if a user starts out here or, or clicks over to here, then it's also already turned on. And that would be done here, advanced, basic, and I would just do this. And then once you do submit, it's over, okay? So I think, so that's kind of the key area for that searching. Databases is what you're searching. So you can poke around. So remember, we're still in this EBSCO host interface. So the reason why when I'm an EBSCO host and I do choose databases, the reason why all of these are here and the reason why they're in this order is because they're following this databases tab. So all of these databases meet the same things that users see in the front. And if yours happens to be out of order, a lot of times it'll get out of order. So look at it. And as librarians, that's something that's kind of a pet peeve, I think. Like, we don't want users to look at this list and see, it's not alphabetized. Then you can quickly order yours, alphabetize and submit. Some real simple things that you can do in EBSCO Admin that will really make the front end user experience a lot better. So databases tab, you're not doing much there, possibly just making sure that you're showing the databases you want and also that they're alphabetized. Viewing results, something really simple too that you could do here is, let's see, I'm gonna do cancel. So if I just did that, I'll just do that crypto. There it is. So I'm just going to do a search as a user. And in my system, I want you to check yours. I have 50 results. I like that because you saw, my page loaded really quickly. Now I'm going to scroll down. I'm not having to page over, page over, page over. If your system only has 10, so you're going to just go into EBSCOhost and do a search. If you only see 10 results and then you have to click over, it's time to change that. And you can change it today or get support to change it today, or get your admin person if you're not it to change it today. How do you do that? Remember, I'm still changing only EBSCOhost. If I want to change other interfaces, I have to do that. But I went to viewing results. So this is after you click the result list or after you click the search bar, what does your result list look like? Super simple. This is what controls the page number. And the default is 10. So Inspire has said, oh, 10 is not good enough. I want 50. That's the max actually. But you can do that today in your system, change the settings, go down, boom, hit submit. That's something super simple that really affects the end user. Linking, this is where you can add, ILLs. Again, I want you just to think about if you don't have an ILL, if you're using ILL in your library and you don't have ILL links in your databases, think about adding it in there if you'd like. Okay, and this is not something we're going to go through, but just know that you can. And in Connect, you could either type in ILL, it's going to tell you to contact us, Or you can, give us a call and, or open a case and say, hey, I want to add an ILL link and get that conversation started. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute. I know we're almost getting to the end. It's 8:50 or it's 8:50 here, 10:50 there. We've gone over a lot, and I just want to make sure, and I think that I've definitely hit the important points that I wanted to hit. So see what you all are thinking.
Lisa, there was a comment about whenever they clicked on the question mark icon for the help, how do I set my preferred authentication, actually came up specifically for the Flipster mobile app.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I want to clarify that. And I should have said that. So remember, I said that this is a newer area that's really going to, we're starting to rely on this a lot more with new user interfaces that come out, with new authentication methods that come out. So when I go to authentication and I click preferred authentication, it still has the old wording of, oh, fix this for your Flipster app or the Find My Organization. But really, this does control new discovery. It controls the mobile app that, if people want to use you mobilely, and it will control a lot of things in the future. So I'm just really wanting you, everyone here, to get prepared for that. So don't just pay attention to this part, but do pay attention to these. Okay. So this should be reworded to just say, do this. There's
Okay.
hopefully that's what you're talking about. And I'll show you kind of a cool thing that you can do to check it. So once if you either ask us to fix it for you, or if you fix it yourself, you could test it. And how you test it is, so what we've seen users do, so that Find My Organization. So what is that Find My Organization? Well, EBSCO said that they saw people doing this, EBSCO Databases, and users have told us that students and public might do this. Just Google it, right? And research databases, EBSCO. Ooh, okay, that's it. And if you notice, it's EBSCO.com. This is our marketing site. You're never going to get to your own individual databases from here. But a lot of users are getting used to, oh, maybe I need to log in, right? So if they do happen to see this, if they do happen to get here and they happen to see this, here is start your research. So you can do the same thing, set your preferred authentication, go to, EBSCO.com, start your research, and this is how you're testing your preferred authentication. So if we did, let's see if we can find it in here. So I'm going to type in my my library name. I knew it was going to give me, but I'll just here. There we go. So I clicked on that, and it should, let's see. So you see how it does give me, there's my Inspire. I have to have an Indiana account. I don't know, so it actually is setting me to the correct authentication, me being here in Denver and choosing this. So you should see your correct authentication page when you do that Find My Organization, if it is a proxy server, or if it's any other authenticate, the single sign-on like you guys are using. So thank you. So someone is asking, well, what about additional resources? So you are a great audience plant. So here I am back in Connect. So number one, I'm going to plug my own stuff. So I do give a detailed EBSCO admin. It's very similar to this, but you can come, now that you've had this first layer of EBSCO admin learning, you can go to the learning site here, and these are open to everyone. And you can find a live class here, find upcoming classes, choose where you are in the world. And since you know me, first of all, what if you want to learn more about ebooks, or maybe you need to learn more about the nursing resource, or other resources here that you have, Novelist or so on, lots of different trainings that are just open for you. But since you know that my name is Lisa and that I'm the one that gives the admin classes, then here's EBSCO Admin Overview. If you do want to come back and say, Lisa, well, I tried a few things, but I want to ask you a few more questions, or if you want a kind of a second layer of what we talked about today. Or there are recordings too. So back to Connect again, back to learning again. You can watch a video here about EBSCO Admin, or if you're just back on General Connect, there's smaller tutorials too. So let me see here. If I just did, I think it's all, I don't know, I think it'd come up either way if it's one word or 2 words. So here's like, how do I do a password? How do I do? So I think if I just did, we kind of move things around here. Maybe if I just do this, we could find them. So kind of here, overview of EBSCO Admin, accessing reports and statistics, creating a user ID, and then Paula thanks. So Paula's saying the Indiana State Library has preset settings in Aspire. Can libraries individually change what their preset settings are? And they supersede. So this is where I was kind of explaining at the very beginning, and this is going to be the same kind of caveat that we have when we do our EBSCO this reports and statistics meeting next month. So depending on if the library is only using this as an entry point, then I think if you're only using this as an entry point, you have probably less of a chance to really be able to change things on your own, and also less of a chance for you to be gathering the stats that your users are using only, right? So if I'm an individual library under Inspire and I'm using this, but if I have my own account, my own website, and I have my own individual links that are actually then using my version of, let's just say, my version of the Inspire databases. So then I will be capturing only my stuff. So it really depends on how the library is set up. It's going to be very unique, but I think that I think that first of all, if anyone that's in this session, if you are unsure of this, then let's make sure that you contact one of the librarians in Inspire and say, can we look into this further, right? So we can look into that question further to give you a definitive answer on how you're using your resources if you don't already know. And a lot of it has to do with the URLs. So if I look at the URLs, if I look at the syntax behind the URL, this will help me to determine whether, like, kind of where I'm pointing to and where I'm going, even if I'm using my own web page. So hopefully that's a little bit of clarity, but it's not going to be a definitive answer until we really look. If you don't know yourself as one of the attendees here, then we can definitely help you to figure that out. I guess, Kara, sorry, I don't want to put any work on your team, but I think it's important for everyone to know. So Kara, thanks. Do you want to go ahead and say what you're putting in the chat?
Oh, yes, I just went ahead and put the request form. If anybody wants a certificate, just go to that link and fill that out, and I'll make sure you get a certificate for today.
Okay, and then I do have a thank you. So do definitely the Connect, the Inspire site is great, lots of help there. Your Connect site, I just put in EBSCO Admin tutorials. I found some things. And then we are here. We're still not, none of us are going anywhere, right, Kara? Kara's
Right.
team. And
yeah, we're still here.
Okay, yeah. So thanks everyone for your time. And I'm even still going to hang out for a few more minutes after, if Lisa wants to. You can stop the recording probably now, Lisa.
Yes.